And we have arrived at the trim. Well, this one's nice. That could work really well. I mean, we could do something like this, I guess, but it looks tricky to sew. Okay, so I've decided this one is my top pick, but there's only 20 centimeters, so I'm gonna settle for this one because there's literally no other option, and I've looked everywhere and asked everyone. You can bet your bottom dollar I'm coming back for this. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, I did want to just thank you guys for 300 subscribers. Makes me very happy. Thanks for all the love on my last video. Honestly, it means the world to me and it makes me really excited to keep doing this. As you can see from the title below, we're going to be making Miley Cyrus's Golden Globes dress, which is this one right here. As soon as I saw this dress, I was like, I have to make this because it looks incredible. It looks so good, but from a dressmaking perspective, it looks very, very easy to sew, especially for beginners because it looks like a stretch fabric. So if you want to know how to make that, then keep watching. Got my receipt here just so you can see how much a project like this might cost you before you start. First of all, I got this beautiful sequin trim. And that was, I got 3 meters of that for a total of $21. Then I got this random little polyester thread, which was $4.50. And then I got a black polyester spandex. I went with 2.5 meters of this just to be safe. And that was a total of $36.75. So grand total for this Golden Globes dress is $62.25 Australian dollars, which I think is pretty reasonable. If you're going to be wearing this to an event, 60 bucks for a dress for an event is pretty good. So that's how much this project will cost. If you are interested, I'll link all of the products that I use down below. But as you saw, this sequin trim was not my first choice. I was so devastated about the other one. I found the perfect trim for this dress and it would have looked identical to Miley's, but they only had like 20 cent. Oh my God, Rocky. Someone dares to walk past our house. They only had 20 centimeters of it and I needed quite a bit more. So I had to settle for this one. It's still beautiful and it will still work, but it's just a little bit disappointing. So this is the dress that we're making here. Just so my brain doesn't get too confused about all of the trims, I've color coded them to show you guys how each one is separate. So we've got 2 long trims that will cover these guys and the back straps, and then we've got like all of these shorter trims that will all be separate, if that makes any sense. I just tried to do that to myself because even I was getting a bit confused. Joshua asked me before, what are you doing today? And I was like, oh, I'm going to film my video for Miley Cyrus dress. And he was like, okay, well, cool. I'm going to go mow all of the lawns then if you're busy. And I'm like, yeah, cool. That makes sense. And now that it's happening, I'm realizing, wait, these 2 things shouldn't be happening right next to each other. I'm sorry if you can hear that. I hope you can still hear me and understand what the heck I'm talking about. But this is the dress. It's going to be sick. I'm going to be making all of this on my dress form, just like straight on it. You'll see what I mean in a sec. But if I wasn't, these are the pattern pieces that I would have. Just so you know. Okay, in an absolutely shocking turn of events, I've run out of trim. This is all I have left. I've barely done anything. Two of the long straps and 2 of the short straps, and I have this much left, so I have to go back to the shop. Got the goods. This is nice. Okay, I'm back from the shops. I got 2 more meters of the same trim for $14, so that's 5 meters of trim, and the total for the project is on the screen. So basically all I'm doing is laying down the trims and then cutting them and just pinning them there. So all of these are separate little trims and we're just using the mannequin to get our measurements right, really. Okay, this is all done. So this will be a gap and a gap here. This will be fabric, fabric, fabric. So now that this is all on, I'm gonna use this like tracing fabric. I'm gonna put this over the top and then use the trim that's underneath it as a guide of where I'm gonna draw our pattern pieces. Then I'm gonna cut them out and then we can cut our fabric, pretty much. It's as simple as that. I've just put my excess trim that I had around the back just to help me trace this back pattern piece, because there's no trim that goes along that, but I kind of need to know where this line is, because this cutout, it's like it stops right in the middle, and then this is one piece here to the side. So like there needs to be a seam here. So this is one piece, and then this is part of our back piece, but it needs to be one continuous line from the bust point down all the way to the back. So I've just put that there as like a guide for me while I'm tracing my patterns. This is relatively easy to do. I'm just tracing on the outer edge of the trim, but because we're working with stretch fabric, it's super forgiving anyway. So honestly, this is like, it's not that serious. So I'm gonna do the top parts double lined, but then for the skirt, I'm not gonna do that double lined, but I am gonna put a facing on the front and the back. And to help me trace the facing, I'm just gonna use the excess that's kind of hanging from the tail and just kind of wrap it around, and we'll use that as the bottom. There's no real reason I didn't want to do like the whole dress double lines, probably just because it will be extremely heavy and it will probably drag the top of the dress down, but also like it's just not that necessary. Maybe if the fabric was see-through I would, but these are the pattern pieces all complete. This is what they should look like. And then I've just kind of folded my fabric over to cut them so that we've got multiple of each little pattern piece. I highly recommend using a rotary cutter. I didn't use them for the longest time, and honestly it is such a game changer. It makes everything so much easier. So I recommend that, especially if you're working with stretch. Then I've just grabbed both of the cup pieces and I've sewn the wrong sides facing together, but I've just left a little gap at the top so that we can flip them inside out. And then we're going to keep that little gap. We're just going to pin it or clip it up for now, but we're going to use that later because we're going to use it to sandwich our straps in. How cute are my cats? To make the back and the front pieces, it's a bit confusing, but I just used a dress that I had already made for a black tie wedding because it fit quite nicely. So I just put my facings on top and then traced around the bottom and the facing. Like that's pretty much all I did. And then I just laid my facings on top of my pieces, pinned them all together so that I could sew them with a straight stitch. Ooh, cheeky broken thread. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but my machine is skipping threads. To fix this, I'm using a life hack that I learned at uni. I'm just grabbing some wrapping paper and I'm putting it underneath my fabric that I need to sew, and then I'm just sewing through it, through all of the layers and the paper, so that, I don't know why this works, I literally don't know, but it just helps the bobbin thread wrap around the needle thread, and it all stays together. I literally do not know how this works. It's magic. And then after you're done, you literally just pull the paper off. It's so easy. I always do this whenever I'm sewing lace or any kind of thin mesh material that is going to get sucked into my machine. I just put the paper there so that that doesn't happen, and then you literally just pull it off. And then look at that. Now we're moving on to the middle panels. This is the most tricky thing, but you need to sew exactly where I'm pointing. So just across the pinned edges, we're sewing these so that we can open them up in the next step to sew to our facing. Just sewing where I've shown you. And then we're going to open it up, pin it to our facing, and then sew it all together so we can kind of turn it inside out. It's honestly the most confusing thing in the world, but if you just follow what I'm doing, you will get there. So then you open up your facing on your dress and you open up that piece that we just sewed, and then you just line up all of the seams, and then you just sew it all together and you trust the process, and then you should have this neat little line here where all of the seams are matching up. And then when you turn it back around the right way, you should have your middle panel coming out of your back piece to be able to wrap around the front of the dress. Honestly, I sound I sound like I'm talking absolute nonsense, but just follow what I'm doing. Put your facing back and then sew that part we left open before. And then what you do after that is you take your front piece, you open up those facings, and then you match those seams together so that you can sew your side seams. And then you have to sew the front facing to the back facing without sewing that middle panel that we just did. Just take this part slow, honestly, because it's not worth it having to unpick it. So just be super slow. And then this is what it should look like after. It should have this little pocket that you can pull out that little middle panel, turn everything the right way around, and then this is what it should look like at the end. And then this is what it all looks like on my mannequin. Don't mind the trim, just kind of look at the black pieces. I just want to make sure they're all sitting right and all fit. You can see what we talked about before, how there is one continuous line from the top all the way down the side, down the back. And then we've got our side seam here cutting through our middle panel. This is exactly how it should look. And then this is what the back looks like. Now it's time for us to make our strap. So to do that, you honestly just grab a little measuring tape. You go from where the strap starts at the top to around the back and where the strap stops on the side seam. This is my measurement for one side, 62-ish centimeters. So I've just folded my fabric down and I've just cut 2 3-centimeter wide strips of 63 centimeters long. And then I've just folded them in half, sewn them with a straight stitch, and then used a loop turner to pull them out. Now we're going to take those pinned up pieces for the cups that we talked about before, sandwich our straps in between, and then just sew over the top. Doesn't need to be that neat because we're putting trims over the top of this, so it really doesn't matter. It's so forgiving. Now we just start sewing all of our short trims onto our dress. I started with the outer parts of the cup and then all of the ones in the middle, and then we keep our longer ones for after. I've also used a grey top thread and a black bobbin so that it remains invisible on the inside, but on the top you don't see all of this black thread going through our trims. And this is what it should look like with all of our short trims on, and then this is what we have left to put on the dress. So we're on our final steps at the moment. I've just placed this trim on the inner part of the cup on both sides. So we're going to be sewing with a zigzag stitch from the center point all the way up, all the way across the strap until you reach this part where the strap stops. Then we'll stop. Once we've done that to both sides, then we're going to place the rest of the trim around the dress in a way that sews all of the pieces together. Then the top part of the dress will be pretty much complete, and then we've just got to overlock the inside and do the hem. Overall, it's pretty easy. I'm still absolutely shattered that I didn't get that trim that I wanted. This one is fine, but the other one would have looked identical, so it's kind of pissing me off. Jump scare in 3, 2, 1. Ah, fuck. Okay, but imagine getting that in your eye. How rude is that? I'm just taking some thread and I'm doubling it over and then just stitching the little points all together so that they all meet in the center before I place my longer trim over the top. This will just help it like stay together. I'm also going to try it on in a sec just to make sure it fits before I put the trims on. And then the trims are going to go over the top of this and sew everything down. Before I put it all together, I just wanted to see if it fits, and it does, as you can see. So this is the front of the dress. In the mirror, you can see the back. Basically, we just need to put all of the trims on and then we can do the hem. I just pinned all of my trim down. It's not necessary. You just need to make sure that the part of the strap where the strap stops and the long trim continues, that's the piece that you need to be connecting to your cup on the side seam. As long as that is in the correct place, the rest of it will fall wherever it needs to go. Then you just trim off the excess and you're good to go. This is what it looks like. These are my fat cats once again. Then I just overlocked the inside, I overlocked the hem, and then I just rolled it up by 1.5 centimeters and sewed that. And then this is what the dress looks like, guys. I'm so happy. Thank you so much for getting to this point of the video. If you did, please subscribe and comment down below what you want to see next. Thanks guys, bye.